Well, that concludes my speech. Oh, I got to get that thing cut back. That's too much. It's good to be amongst friends. I was lucky enough to follow Sammy and Yvonne, president of the San Antonio Restaurant Association. You notice I said Sammy and Yvonne, because actually Sammy was president, but Yvonne did all the work. And the year I came in, she said, Balous, I want to have dinner with you tonight and kind of get you started. I said, okay. I think we came out here, didn't we, Yvonne? Went to my house, probably did, sat down, and she said, this is how you do it. I mean, she had everything organized and laid out right to a T. Easiest year I've ever had, president of the San Antonio Restaurant Association. So I owe that to Sammy and Yvonne. And actually, before I bought the site across here, my brother was going to sign the papers, and I said, wait a minute, I've got to call Sammy and get his blessings before we do this. So I called over here, and they said, oh, he's in Colorado fishing. I said, no problem, give me a phone number. Your assistants are better than mine. And I called Sammy up there in Colorado. I said, look, Sammy, I'm fixing to buy that corner across from you with your blessing. He said, oh, go ahead and buy it. You'll probably do a little business over there. So here we are. I said amongst friends, I've known Kim Persine for a good while. My daddy passed away, and I thought I'd kind of tell you the story of Bill Miller BBQ. What she didn't read there to you. There's not a whole lot more to it. But I tell you the story of it and tell you how we ended up opening stores out in some of the suburb cities of San Antonio, like Floresville and Lytle, and soon to be Castroville. And I used to, when my daddy passed away, he left me 3 ranches out in South Bexar County and Wilson County. It had 400 mother cows to run. And so I see old Ken from time to time getting semen from him when he had his AI breeding business here. And that's how we got started building these stores out in the suburbs, out there working on those ranches and no place to go eat close by. In addition, I got to mention Larry Habe. Larry and I have been fishing together the last couple of years. He's got a buddy that goes to church with me there in Bernie, and you know, as things go, it's kind of funny. I would donate a trip to the youth of the church every year to sell at auction 2 days of bay fishing at South Padre Island. And you can't believe what people would pay for that. I mean, over $1,000 most of the time. And you know, the youth would sell it at a fish fry we would have every year. And you know, God has a way of blessing those. I mean, I gave that trip year after year. The youth got that, and Larry and I were down there. Larry, you know, I would really pay them to get to take them fishing. They bring the steaks, the whiskey. We cook, and you know, we do our cooking and go fishing, have a big time while we're down there 2 or 3 days. Well, we were down there the first day last year, and you know how men were talking about cancer, and Larry, I'm telling Larry, I check my PSA all the time, it's real low. And he said, hey, you better be doing more than that, because when I was your age, I was getting mine checked, and by golly, I had cancer, my PSA was real low. So right there, I went over and called my secretary, and I said, you get me an appointment with my urologist if you would. I'm going to get that check when I get back in there. And guess what? I had cancer. So if anything, I might owe my life to Larry Habe, one of your local people right here. I went in and had my surgery, and I'm doing fine. So it is good to be amongst friends, and I hope neighbors here when we get to Castroville. My dad and mother started Bill Miller BBQ. My dad, after World War II, they settled here in San Antonio. My mother was a registered nurse, and my dad worked for the Coca-Cola bottling company, the Biedenhardt family, in San Antonio, delivering Coke. But they were old, really merchants. My mother's family owned a general store in the little town of Cramples Gap, Texas, up in Bosque County. We were Norwegian and Swede immigrants that came here, and so they were raised Lutherans. And so they owned the general store. My dad's family owned the mill in town. So they were, you know, both came from families of merchants. My dad worked for Coca-Cola, but he was always destined to own his own business. And we would go after church on Sunday to have lunch back in the 50s. He'd say, you know, if I had a restaurant, when you came in, I'd put a salad down and some crackers in front of you, let you get started eating rather than have to sit here and wait on the menu. Then they get the menu to you. Then you sit and wait on some waitress to come by and take your order. I'd give you service. I'd take care of people. He was always destined, like I say, to be a businessman and own his own business. Well, soon he left Coca-Cola. He bought a 3-wheel motor scooter, and we started selling eggs door to door in San Antonio, up and down the street. And actually, when I was 5 years old before school, I would go with him and sell those eggs, and I could outsell him because those women would take it. I loved it too. They would put their hand on my head. I was a cotton top. That ain't brown no more. It's gray now, but back then it was white. And they'd say, I'm going to Arkansas. I don't need any eggs right now, but "You're so cute, I'll take a dozen." And I mean, I took pride. I would take 3 or 4 dozen of those eggs with me, and my dad take 3 or 4 dozen. I could sell out before he could. I was 5 years old and he was a grown man. Well, soon we started dressing chickens in our garage all the time. My mother was a registered nurse, nursing, making $5 a night, sitting up all night long, riding the bus to downtown San Antonio. She nursed to help keep us going as a registered nurse. My dad was selling eggs. We were dressing chickens in the garage. Then we opened up a little poultry house, and there was one little fried chicken stand in San Antonio. Anyone know the name of it? There was only one of them at the time. No, Youngbloods was there. Churches. Youngbloods was there, but it was Churches. And that was one of our accounts that we sold chickens to. We sold fresh dressed, cut up fryers to Churches Fried Chicken. It's down where Hemisphere is now in downtown San Antonio. Of course, it's been bulldozed, but that's where it's at. And we would go over there at night. My dad would watch that place, and they sold 2 pieces of fried chicken and a roll for 49 cents. And they did a pretty good business. So it wasn't long until we opened up right next to our poultry house, Miller's Chicken Box. We had 2 pieces of fried chicken, a slice of white bread, a slice of sweet pickle, and French fries for 49 cents. And that was the beginning of Bill Miller BBQ. We added hamburgers, and we added barbecue later. The restaurant grew. It was just like Sammy's here. You notice all these little rooms that Sammy's added on here over the years? It was the same way with my mother and dad's restaurant. My dad had built another little room and another little room. And believe it or not, when I went off to college in 1962, I went to A&I to go to college. That restaurant was doing $350,000 in retail business and making a $60,000 profit per year in 1962. You know, we all worked. My mother ran the restaurant. My dad worked behind the counter, making the food, getting the orders out. There was 4 kids in the family. We all worked in the restaurant. I happened to be the oldest. And like in the introduction, when I got out of college, I loved that restaurant. I mean, my dad said, be a school teacher. You can make $5,000 a year. You can live in a $25,000 house. You won't have a worry in the world. Go to college and be a school teacher. So, I went up there. I did my student teaching right here at John Marshall in San Antonio. And then in Rivera, south of Kingsville, I did my student teaching there too. And came here, and I was going to be a school teacher. Between my junior and senior year, I came here to run that restaurant while they went on vacation. And I realized how much I loved it. And I had to come back and run that restaurant when I got out of school. So my brothers and I, as each one finished college, they came to work for Bill Miller's. And you wouldn't believe it, there's 4 of us. My brother-in-law, Louis Vance,